Okay, let's jump right into this explainer. If you're an entrepreneur building a brand, a business, or really any kind of online presence today, you know you're inevitably going to face some friction. We're living in this outrage economy right now where algorithms aggressively push controversy simply because it keeps people glued to their screens. But look, there is a massive difference between taking tough, legitimate feedback and becoming the target of a full-blown digital witch hunt. So today, we're going to unpack exactly how to tell the difference. We'll look at the psychology behind these attacks, and most importantly, how you can build an absolute armor around yourself and your business to weather any digital storm. Here is our roadmap. We'll start with the digital double-edged sword, then look at when investigation becomes obsession, the real human cost, criticism versus harassment, builders versus critics, and finally, exactly how to protect your reputation. So let's kick things off with Section 1, the digital double-edged sword. You see, the internet is basically the ultimate tool, right? It presents this wild paradox of unprecedented opportunity mixed with some pretty significant danger. Think of the internet purely as a giant amplifier. It doesn't actually have a moral compass. Whatever energy you put into it, well, it scales exponentially. The algorithms running these platforms don't really care about good intent or bad intent. They only reward engagement. And unfortunately, that engagement is so often driven by extreme emotions. That means this amplification applies just as powerfully to negative destruction as it does to positive creation. Now, on the positive side, and this is why we're all here, it has given leaders this incredible ability to instantly connect, build their dreams, and serve customers on a global scale. There's absolute magic in being able to build a thriving community right from scratch, share your unique ideas, and generate income straight from your living room. Never before in human history could a single entrepreneur reach out and positively impact thousands of people so efficiently. It's an incredibly empowering reality. But we have to talk about the flip side. The exact same systems that let you scale your positive impact can absolutely be weaponized. That incredible visibility you've built, it can attract coordinated attacks and severe cyberbullying online. We've seen this rapidly devolve into actual digital witch hunts, where just a single critical post snowballs overnight. Out of nowhere, it's jumping platforms, from a YouTube video over to a Twitter pile-on, straight into targeted Instagram comments. The exact same algorithms that help you find your ideal customer are being flawlessly leveraged to organize reputation attacks and public shaming. It's a harsh reality that every modern builder absolutely has to be prepared for. Which leads us right into Section 2, when investigation becomes obsession. Over the last decade or so, we've seen an absolute explosion of content creators who build their entire audiences around exposing companies and entrepreneurs. They usually go after cryptocurrency projects, network marketing companies, high-profile business leaders, and they view themselves as vital consumer advocates. But we really have to look at the underlying incentives here. Exposing companies has basically become a highly lucrative content genre of its own. Watchdogs know that controversy generates massive clicks, and in the digital world, well, those clicks directly translate into ad revenue, sponsorships, and really rapid audience growth. To understand this dynamic objectively, let's look at Dehek. He's a New Zealand creator who brands himself as the crypto Ponzi scheme avenger. He targets businesses and promoters that he believes warrant scrutiny by using open-source intelligence. So practically, that means meticulously digging through years of old social media posts, public business records, and digital footprints to build a profile. He regularly attends and records private Zoom presentations, and then produces a massive volume of videos centered entirely around these investigations. Now, public perception of these types of avengers is heavily divided, and it really highlights this vast gray area between consumer protection and personal targeting. Supporters firmly point to him as a much-needed anti-fraud investigator, doing the hard work of holding dubious operations accountable. On the flip side, critics argue his tactics are highly aggressive, resulting in really lengthy, hostile public battles and the highly uncomfortable publishing of detailed, personal information about the promoters themselves. So we really have to step back and ask ourselves, at what point does investigation actually become obsession? When does healthy consumer awareness cross the line? And when does accountability become dangerously personal? Usually you see that line crossed when critiques of a business model bleed into posting details about someone's family, revealing their home address, or dragging up completely unrelated mistakes from a decade ago. Questions and research, totally healthy. But when the focus shifts from auditing a company's practices to aggressively dismantling an individual's personal life, the entire dynamic changes. And that brings us to Section 3, the human cost. Behind the investigations, behind the outrage algorithms, there is a very real, very human toll that we absolutely cannot ignore. Research clearly shows that online harassment leaves deep, lasting scars.
And yeah, the tangible career damage and business losses are incredibly frustrating, but they are honestly secondary to the severe mental health toll. The stress of being publicly targeted leads to profound anxiety and deep depression. It creates this suffocating sense of isolation, where the entrepreneur feels like the entire world is against them, just watching their every move, waiting for them to stumble.
We must remember that behind every single business, every Zoom call, and every social media profile is a real person. The targets of these digital pylons aren't just two-dimensional pieces of content. They are human beings with families, real emotions, and deeply held dreams. The screen creates this weird psychological distance that makes it way too easy for mobs to completely forget the humanity of the person on the other side. Real people are just too often turned into mere collateral damage in the endless pursuit for clicks and views.
Let's move on to Section 4, Criticism versus Harassment.
To protect your professional brand, you need a seriously strong mental filter. Knowing the difference between these two concepts is literally your very first line of defense. Healthy feedback is about constructive facts, whereas toxic harassment is fueled by a desperate need for an audience. For example, criticism is a one-star review clearly explaining why a product failed or a service was lacking. Harassment, on the other hand, is when that same person starts tagging an entrepreneur's family members online, demanding they be fired and obsessing over their daily whereabouts. Recognizing this stark difference allows you as an entrepreneur to step back and actually stop taking bad faith attacks personally. If someone says, "Hey, let's discuss the facts of this compensation plan," okay, that is criticism. If they say, "Let's destroy this person's credibility," that is cyberbullying. And why do they seek to destroy credibility? Because harassment isn't about fixing a business problem at all. It's about playing a status game. The attacker is just trying to elevate their own standing with their audience by tearing down someone who has actually built something.
Which perfectly sets up Section 5, the Builder versus Critic Framework. Now, let's lock into the mindset shift that is going to save your sanity. Every single minute you spend arguing online is a minute you aren't spending building your business, training your team, or serving your actual customers. Builders create value. They create tangible opportunities. Critics, well, they essentially operate as parasites on the value created by those builders. They merely create reactive content off of your hard work. When you realize that their entire business model relies on distracting you, you take your power back by simply choosing not to engage. If you fight back, you're literally just feeding them the very content they need to survive. Finally, let's get into Section 6, Protecting Your Reputation.
If you do become a target, do not panic and absolutely do not attack back. Instead, take a breath and calmly execute these concrete steps to systematically dismantle the harassment. The absolute most crucial thing you can do is document everything. I mean it. Take timestamped screenshots of every single threatening message, archive deleted comments, and build a meticulous chronological file. This isn't just for your own peace of mind, it is the exact concrete evidence that social platforms and legal counsel are going to need to take decisive action. Follow platform policies to report the cyberbullying, seek professional legal advice to protect your brand, and above all, do not let their toxicity change who you are.
Ultimately, the strongest armor you have against online negativity is to remain relentlessly professional and let your ongoing results speak for you. Transparency and consistency are your shields. An outrage mob heavily relies on you losing your cool. If you react emotionally, you validate their attack. But by remaining aggressively professional, you basically starve the fire of the oxygen it desperately needs to keep burning. People eventually see the patterns. If someone is constantly attacking, and you are constantly delivering value and maintaining your integrity, the broader public will eventually recognize the truth. Time, character, and results always reveal the truth in the end. It might feel completely overwhelming in the moment, but you have to remember, the internet has a really long memory, but an incredibly short attention span. Outrage cycles are highly temporary, and they inevitably fade away as the mob just moves on to the next target. A well-built business, a resilient character, and the actual value you've provided to the world, those are permanent. Those who create will always, always outlive those who merely critique. The internet is an incredibly powerful tool, so the final choice is entirely yours. The next time you face a digital storm of public criticism, you have to ask yourself, will my response build my empire, or will it just feed the critics? You only have a finite amount of energy every single day. Please do not waste it on those committed to misunderstanding you. Choose leadership, choose to ignore the noise, and most importantly, choose to keep building.